1.5 weeks of the IPL have already been completed, but there is still some confusion regarding the status of the Australian players in the IPL. You have to understand that the Australian cricket team played a series in Pakistan. Cricket Australia gave a clear diktat that if, until and unless the Pakistan series does not end, none of the players can play the IPL. So that is why you see the likes of David Warner, Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Marsh, Aaron Finch have not yet played in the IPL. Aaron Finch, on the other hand, is captaining the Australia limited overs side, and the final match of the series will be today. The first match, the one of T20I, will be today at Lahore. So, what is the status regarding the Australian players? Well, let me first begin with RCB. Glenn Maxwell. Now, Glenn Maxwell's situation is awkward. He did not go to the tour of Pakistan, but because he missed the series, because he was in a wedding, he got married and he's linked up with the RCB squad just now. The rules in the IPL state that you have to serve a mandatory 3-day quarantine, and that is why Maxwell may not be available for the RCB team until April 9th. So that is the status regarding Glenn Maxwell. Glenn Maxwell will not be available for RCB on April 9th. Josh Hazlewood's case is pretty confounding. Remember, Josh Hazlewood left the test series against Pakistan. He returned home because of some personal reasons. He didn't play the ODI or the T20I. But Hazlewood is now back in Australia. He's not yet linked up with the franchisee yet. So, Hazlewood, if he does not come by today, he will miss the match on 9th. There are reports that Josh Hazlewood might come a day later, maybe on the 6th or on the 7th. So that is why Hazlewood will not be available for RCB until April 12th. So where does this leave RCB's Australian players? How many matches have RCB played till now? Well, today RCB are playing Rajasthan Royals. That will be their 4th game. So until April 12th, Maxwell will have missed 4 games. So he's available on April 9th. Hazlewood will miss 5 games. So that is the status when it comes to RCB. When it comes to Aaron Finch is captaining the Australian side in Pakistan. The final T20I is today. So Finch, after that match returns, he can link up with the Kolkata Knight Riders squad. But remember, as per the BCCI rules, every player coming to India has to undergo a mandatory 3-day quarantine. So Finch will not be available until April 10th. That means Kolkata Knight Riders, who have also played 3 games, their next game is on 6th. That is against the Mumbai Indians. So that means Finch is going to miss a total of 4 games. If he's deemed for selection on April 10th, he will be back, but it is very difficult considering the current composition of the KKR side. Pat Cummins. Well, there is good news for Kolkata Knight Riders fans. Pat Cummins will be available for the game on 6th. So, that is why he will play the game against Mumbai Indians, provided they pick him. Again, let me tell you why the situation has cropped up regarding the situation of the Australian players. The Australian cricket team are currently playing Pakistan. Cricket Australia clearly said that unless and until the series against Pakistan does not end, none of the Australian players can play in the IPL. That is their way of putting country ahead of club. Ayush Jindal is asking, how do you see DC after the return of Marsh, Warner and Northier? I am coming to DC right now. Warner has linked up with the DC squad and has also served out his quarantine. So David Warner will be available for the next game, that is on 7th. So David Warner will be back. Now Mitchell Marsh, that is a very interesting situation with regards to Mitchell Marsh. Mitchell Marsh was selected in the ODI and the T20I squad for Australia, but because of a side strain, he had to pull out of the tour. Instead of going back to Australia, Mitchell Marsh is back in the Delhi Capitals lineup. But Ricky Ponting has stated that Mitchell Marsh, the injury is pretty severe. He might miss more games. So he might not come back at the same time as David Warner. So Warner will be available for the game on April 7th. But Mitchell Marsh's status is uncertain because of the nature of his injury. So Mitchell Marsh, we don't know when he'll be available. And yes, if Nortje returns, Warner returns, potentially Marsh returns, then Delhi Capitals have a much more stronger batting and bowling lineup. But we don't know about Marsh's position. Warner will immediately slot in. He will open with Prithvi Shaw, Nortje if he's fit. But remember, he's not played active cricket for a year. So that is why it will be very difficult for Nortje to fit back in very soon. Now, I have talked about Glenn Maxwell. I have talked about Josh Hazlewood, Pat Cummins. The other Australian, the key Australian that I'm going to talk about now is Marcus Stoinis. Remember, Marcus Stoinis was bought by the Lucknow Supergiants. He is also in the series, in the ODIs and T20s against Pakistan. Now the match is today. Stoinis will be available after the end of the Pakistan series, but he'll have to serve out a 3-day quarantine. So, Marcus Stoinis will not be available until April 10th. That is when Lucknow Supergiants play their next game. Whether Stoinis fits into the game depends upon the team composition of Lucknow Supergiants. So, let me give a brief summary. Warner available from April 7th. Maxwell available from April 9th. Josh Hazlewood available from April 12th, although in the same squad, but because Josh Hazlewood has not yet linked up with the RCB team yet. Pat Cummins available from April 6th. Mitchell Marsh, uncertain what is the situation because his side strain has not yet, the full extent of the injury has not yet been revealed. Aaron Finch and Marcus Stoinis will be available for their respective franchisees only from April 10th, because when they leave the Pakistan series, they'll have to serve out a 3-day quarantine period. So for Delhi Capitals, Warner's return will be a massive boost. I don't know about Mitchell Marsh, whether he will be available for the IPL. There are doubts even on that. But Ricky Ponting has said, wait and watch approach. As far as the current state of the IPL is concerned, the match today is Rajasthan Royals versus RCB. So Glenn Maxwell, although he is with the squad, he will not play in this game. The same is with Josh Hazlewood. Rajasthan Royals have no problems with their Australian players because they don't have many at this point in time. Now many people will be asking, but why did Matthew Wade and Daniel Sams play? Matthew Wade and Daniel Sams were not part of the Pakistan tour. They came directly from Australia to India, served out their quarantine period, and that's how they could play for Gujarat Titans and for Mumbai Indians. So, the other Australians who did not feature in the Pakistan series will now be part of the IPL. In the case of these 6 prominent Australians, because they played the Pakistan series, they'll have to undergo a 3-day quarantine period, and that is why they are not available. Cummins and Warner were not part of the ODIs. But then because of the Cricket Australia diktat that you cannot play any IPL before the end of the Pakistan series, that is why they were not available until April 5. So the T20 against Pakistan ends today, and that is why Warner and Cummins will be available from 6th onwards. Warner on 7th for DC, Cummins available on the 6th against the Mumbai Indians, provided KKR pick him. That is all the live updates. Update on Mitchell Marsh, please. Samarth Sharma is asking, well, Ricky Ponting has said the nature of Marsh's injury means that he could be out for a significant period of time. If he was not injured, then he could have been available for the game on April 7th, but he's not available. So Samarth, Mitchell Marsh might be out for a significant period of time. His injury has been monitored. He's anyway going to have his recovery during the course of the IPL. So that is the status regarding update on Aaron Finch for KKR. Nishan Saha Musical is saying, well, Aaron Finch, because he's the captain of the limited oversight for Australia, he will be available after the end of the Pakistan series, that is on 5th. But because when he comes to India, he has to do a 3-day quarantine, he will be available only from April 10th onwards. When will Finch be available? Anirban Chattopadhyay, as I said, April 10th for Kolkata Knight Riders. But whether Kolkata Knight Riders pick him is a different thing altogether. What about Nathan Ellis for Punjab? Well, Nathan Ellis, he might still have to serve out the quarantine period, if I may have to ask. Because Ellis is part of the Pakistan side. He is there. Update on Nortje also, please. Well, Nortje depends whether his injury is there. Whether he is fit enough, that is a different call altogether. That's the Delhi Capitals management they'll have to take a call on it. But we don't know the nature of Andrich Northier's injury, whether he'll be available. If he's available, great. If he's not available because he's not played competitive cricket for a year, might be difficult. When will Josh Hazelwood be available? Well, if you're joined the starting Anirban, I'll again mention it. Josh Hazelwood will be available from April 12th. Why? He has still not yet linked up with the RCB squad. He's coming directly from Australia. Hazelwood played the Pakistan tests, returned to Australia because of personal reasons. He will then come from Australia to India and will serve the quarantine period, so he will not be available until April 12th. Samat Sharma is asking, do you see DC in top 4? Well, that we will have a separate debate altogether when the pre-match, when we go live at 6:45. We will discuss whether DC will be in the top 4. Willie versus Hazelwood. Yes, because David Willie has done significantly okay. Perhaps Hazelwood might not come. So that is about it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us in this broadcast. Stay tuned to Sports Today for more updates. Like, comment and subscribe. And please download the Gamezy app. You can win up to 5 crores prizes. You can make teams in 5 over slots. Jason Behrendorff update. Well, Jason Behrendorff was not part of the Pakistan team. He's not been picked because of team composition issues. So, I hope I have answered all the Australian queries. If you have, put them in the comments. We will answer them in our next live. Like, comment, share, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.